Hello everybody and welcome to this pre-show talk for the House Party, the first of our pre-show talks in the Minerva this season. My name's Lucinda. I'm standing in for Kate Moss, who sends her apologies. She wasn't able to be here this evening, much to her disappointment. But this feels like a bit of a rerun because this happened also for A View from the Bridge, I remember, and I had the pleasure of talking to Holly Race Roughan for her production of View from the Bridge as well. So huge pleasure to have you back here at Chichester, first of all, with a very different play. And we will do the usual thing. Well, first of all, I will just check how many people have already seen the production. A few. And I gather then that most other people are going to see it either this evening or at a later date. Yeah, so no spoilers, this is the thing, please, especially on this production, and if you've seen it, you will know why. But Holly, also a great cause for celebration this year, you are Artistic Director of Headlong Theatre Company, which celebrates their 50th anniversary this year, not that you've been with them for 50 years, I hasten to add. What makes the company so special, and what defines a Headlong show?
That's a great question. Hello, everybody. I'm sort of fresh from, we're still in previews, so every afternoon we're changing loads in the show. So you're getting me at my most theatrical and haggard, but I'm here and very pleased to see you all. Welcome, come in. So Headlong is we're a touring theatre company, which means we're a theatre without walls, and we don't have a building, so we collaborate across the country, and we're very privileged to collaborate so much with Chichester. And over the year, I mean, we did View from the Bridge last year. I don't know if anyone saw that in the other space, and I was here directing a version of Hedda Gabler about 5-6 years ago for Headlong. And I think we did we do Emron here, if I made that up?
Yes.
I think we did Emron here. So we've worked with Chichester for years and been really supported by Chichester. But Headlong, we do two things. We try to take the classics and allow audiences to hear them again as if they're new plays. And then we commission new plays that we think are robust and muscular enough to go on and be the classics of tomorrow. So in a way, we're doing kind of blockbusters, but done as if they're new, and new plays that we hope are going to be blockbusters. And tonight, for those of you that haven't seen it, is a show that falls between those two things. It's taking an old story and doing it anew, but it's kind of so new what Laura Lomas, the writer's done, that we kind of hope it will go on in its own right and have a future life in other productions of it. But yeah, Headlong is, we're a company that takes sort of the big meaty questions of the moment and the sort of zeitgeisty, what the sort of social questions of the moment are, and we try and make thrilling theatre out of them. And that's what we're going to try and do for you tonight.
And of course, you mentioned Hedda Tesman, which was the last time you were working in this space, an adaptation of Hedda Gabler. This, of course, the House Party reinvents Miss Julie. Can you say a little bit more about why adapt classic plays? Because Miss Julie in particular has been subject to, it possibly can claim to be the most adapted play ever. I mean, there have been operas, ballets, endless different interpretations and settings, from Mississippi to Russia to South Africa. So yes, why adapt a classic play? And what did you want to do with Miss Julie in particular?
I just realised, did anyone see the version of Hedda Gabler here called Hedda Tesman? A couple of people. I'm just realising that when I was here, I was a lot younger, directing a version of Hedda Gabler where the characters were imagined to be much older. And now I'm here and I'm a lot older and I'm directing a version of Miss Julie where the characters are imagined to be a lot younger. So I don't know what's gone on in my life, but that's happening. So yeah, why adapt? I mean, I think there are some stories that just are in the public imagination, aren't they? And that we kind of keep returning to them like moths to flames. And I think Miss Julie is that for me. And I think part of, when I first spoke to Laura Lomas, the playwright, and about did she want to do an adaptation for Headlong and what might that be? we were both obsessed with the melodrama of Strindberg and how everything turns on a dime, and it feels like a kind of, I love you, I hate you, I want to have sex with you. You know, it kind of, in every line in the play is a really sharp corner for the actors to turn around. And we were going, what does that remind us of? This kind of 1800s melodrama, and we were like, God, it really reminds us of what it's like to be a teenager when your body is saturated in hormones and you're kind of, everything feels dramatic. So the idea of taking this story and reimagining it with teenagers was sort of about how do we take this story that is hundreds of years old and make it kind of crackle for a modern contemporary audience. And we felt like that was by telling it through the lens of being a teenager.
And in doing that, you've also chosen to work with Frantic Assembly, who are fantastic, you know, known for their physical theatre in particular. And you've drawn in, of course, the central characters are just three principal actors, but you've also created an ensemble to add to that world.
Yeah. So I think that because the original story is set on Midsummer Night's Eve at this Midsummer's party. God, I hope I'm making sense. I'm so tired, but I'm very pleased to be here. Midsummer Evening's party, and I know from having directed and also having watched a lot of theatre, and I'm sure you'll have had this experience, is it's really hard to do party on stage because one of the key aspects of a party is like the somatic, physical experience of you're there, you're standing or you're dancing. So I felt like, okay, so this story is set at a party, so I've got to achieve party, and how am I going to do that? And that kind of was answered two ways. One, by collaborating with Frantic Assembly, who are this extraordinary movement company, similar to Headlong, in that they're a touring company that doesn't have a theatre, and they've done quite a lot of work in the Minerva before as well, actually. And the second thing was, could I give audience who were up for it a slightly more physical feeling of being at this party, which is why we've got some immersed seats in this show, because it kind of, I hope for those of you who've seen it that you feel like we have managed to make you feel like you're a party, and for those coming tonight, get your party hats on. So yeah, that's kind of why we ended up in that collaboration. Thank you.
Just to get us even in the mood. And they are extraordinary, those young ensemble members, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, that's the other thing, is we were like, we can't make a play about teenagers without teenagers. So we auditioned loads of people and found a bunch of young people who are based from all over the country. And also there's a cohort of them who are from Chichester, and put them through their paces, and they're smashing it out the park.
And the three principal actors, of course, Rochelle Diedrichs, you've worked with before. I mean, some people will remember her from our generation, and also in your production of A View from the Bridge. And then you've also got the brilliant Nadia Parks and Josh Feinan. Did you have them in mind when you set out, or was it a process of discovery and auditions?
I think I worked with Rochelle, and I had a sort of penny drop moment when I was reading a draft of the script, and I was like, God, she'd be an amazing Christine. So Rochelle I sort of had in mind, and then she came and did a workshop on the play at Headlong, and just killed it. And we were like, great, we want you. And then Nadia Parks was introduced to me by the casting director, and she walked in and I was like, whoa, you're Julie, this is really exciting. And she's such an exquisite, detailed actor. And then the character of John, it was really hard to cast. And we had, I got a phone call at one point from the casting director who said, look, I've just got to come clean and say I've never known a director to audition so many actors for one role. It's kind of bordering on like mad. You need to just pick someone. We've met 30 like brilliant young men. You've got to just pick someone. And I was like, I just feel deep in my bones that I haven't met John. And then Josh Feinan walked into the room, and after about 30 seconds, I was like, John's here, brilliant. So Josh was offered the role quite late in the day because I'd met half the country. But he's really, really good.
He certainly is. And this amazing set we're in, I mean, could you just perhaps talk us through the process of how you approach the design of it.
Yeah, definitely. So I hope that you came through a front door. Did you come through a front door? Good. So that's been put in this week. So the idea is that you're in Julie's house, and we wanted to create a space that dwarfed the two young women at the start of the show. So it's naturalistic, but there should be a sense of scale in here, where it feels like this is not a kind of cozy living room where it would be appropriate to have a gathering. That this is a kind of grown-up, kind of architecturally sort of beautiful space where you should definitely not throw a house party without permission. And then there was a kind of a game, because I knew I wanted to have a third of the audience in the room with the actors. We spent a long time, am I allowed to move or are we out of the light? We spent a long time going, right, how can we fit a third of the audience on stage without it looking like a third of the audience are going to be on stage? So you will see this really oversized sofa, which can get quite a few people on. And then we've got these chairs. We were talking about the image at house parties. For me, I always remember like my teenage house parties with people like sitting on the stairs. So there's a couple of moments where the actors sit on the stairs. We've got a bathroom, which you'll spot in the play that I've not solved. When you make a show, they're like, you start out gunning for perfection, and then at points you realise that you're always doing the best that you can do with the time that you've got. And one of the things I haven't solved, which I'm now going to point out to you, I don't know why, is that this is a bathroom, but it's sometimes not a bathroom. And that is a confusing bit of theatrical language, which you can watch out for tonight. So there's different entrances. And I think Lauren, who was the designer on it, spent a lot of time looking at Scandinavian design and kind of minimalism and modernism in order to do a bit of a nod to the original Strindberg. And we wanted to create a space that was like sterile enough that you feel empathetic to Julie, that this isn't necessarily the most cozy and homely home to grow up in, but kind of like plush and luxury enough that we understand why Christine it doesn't have the privilege that Julie has. And then in terms of process, so much of it, when you're working so heavily with movement on a show, you're kind of trying to create a bit of a playground, and those of you who are watching it tonight, you'll see what we mean by that, that you're as much thinking about the shapes in the space and how bodies will relate to the shapes in the space as you are about trying to create a kind of naturalistic environment.
Great. Thank you. And talking of Strindberg, now this is where we've got to be careful to not give away spoilers, but some of just maybe to touch on some of the main interventions and changes, and perhaps one of them is, apart from making the characters much younger, is the character of Christine, or Christina in the middle, who takes a much more sort of pivotal role, major role in this version than she does in the original.
Yeah, so I think when Laura read it, she was really excited about giving the working class woman more of a arc and a voice in the play. So kind of her big intervention, if you like, has been in the original, Christine just does quite a lot of cleaning and then falls asleep. And whereas in this version of the story, you'll see that Christine goes on a kind of huge journey. So that's been really exciting to sort of see a writer imagine around the kind of building blocks of the original in that regard. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to ask the question that Kate, before we open it to the floor, that Kate Moss always asks, which is, is the production that you sort of imagined in your head very different from what you've achieved here? Have you discovered things in rehearsals that you didn't expect?
That's such a good question. I've never been asked that question before. Is it different? I think when I conceived it, I imagined that the entire audience was going to be immersed, and then that worked out pretty quickly to be a bad idea. So I think I imagined it being a sort of like sweatier, like more close-up experience for the audience, and actually it's ended up being more cinematic and pictorial. So I think I'd imagined it in the beginning as like we were all crowded around this boxing ring and we were watching these three characters take each other to task. Whereas actually we've ended up somewhere that is more visually curated than that. Which is a different type of directing muscle and equally exciting. So that's something that's different. I think something that does feel like how I sort of initially conceived it with Laura was we really wanted, and I hope you feel this tonight, we really wanted to create something that excited a teenage audience, but also made the rest of us feel like we were back in touch with what it was like to be teenage. So I think there's been a sort of, that's what I feel like we've been quite successful at and we set out to do, and I hope you feel that. That we're flies on the wall, but it's bringing us back to remembering what it was like, or for those of us who've had children, kind of being reminded what that's like.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you to Close Brothers Asset Management, who are sponsoring all our pre- and post-show talks this year. There will be a post-show talk on the 29th of May for the house party, which you'll be able to get the perspective of the company members, so do come along to that if you're able to. But in the meantime, Holly, thank you very much indeed for talking to us this evening.